Let's hear it.
Welcome to episode
Welcome.
69 of Ghost Gone
69.
Spooky.
Wow.
This is like the true, like, Girls Gone Wild, but Girls Gone Spooky. Spring break!
Uh-huh.
You know? And
Getting
it's almost
close
spring
to that
break.
time. I know.
Yeah.
How
Look
exciting. I can't
We
believe
timed
it.
it on purpose,
Mhm.
obviously.
Planned it a year and a half
Fools.
ago.
Obviously. Fools.
Mhm.
Well, party people, I have to sneeze.
Let it out.
No, it's gone. I made Amy wait to tell her this. I'm reading such a good book right now, and it is spooky AF. It is called Ninth House, and it is by, let me check. Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear my cat being an absolute menace. It's
He's just there
by,
for the intro every time.
truly, can you hear him
Yeah.
cleaning his...
I can.
Dude, enough. That's enough. Oh my god, he's just scratching plastic. Like there's nothing there.
Oh.
Jesus. Okay, it's
Just
by
wants
Lee
to make it known.
Bardugo. I know. He's like, I am here.
Uh-huh.
It's so good. It's basically founded on the idea that like there are a bunch of like secret societies on
Ooh.
like old East Coast Ivy campuses, Yale, namely.
Uh-huh. I
And
believe it.
specifically, yeah, but it's like intense and it's very paranormal, so like spooky vibes. Dude,
Should we take a
enough.
pause?
Oh my god, I'm just gonna take him out. I'm done with you. Get away. Get away, boy.
Out of here.
Oh my god. Anyway, it's based on they're like the concept that there are these 8, they call them ancient houses.
Mhm.
And the ninth house is called Leth, and it's basically, it comes about in order to protect the students and the town of New Haven from the magic that these 8 houses perform. And they all
Interesting.
have specialties. So some are like contracts, some are like glamours, and like some are, there's this thing called a prognostication where they literally like basically sift through somebody's abdomen, like cut open on a table, who's still living, that they
Ew.
like steal from the hospital. Oh my god, it's so
Wow.
gory. But
Ew.
basically, like this, it's like a blue blood thing, right? So it's like only the wealthy and whatever.
Yeah.
And basically, this girl has a natural gift that she can see spirits, and they call them the Greys. She can see them, and the left house historically has had to take this like elixir to see them, but it's like really damaging on your body. And so, oh my god, it's so like complex. I was literally explaining it to Noah, and he was like, this, I am
What?
not following this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But this girl has
But-
this like really dark, seedy history because she's had a lifetime of like seeing ghosts and being like assaulted by ghosts and stuff, and everyone thinking she's crazy. And then
Yeah.
she basically gets like tapped to like come and help the house where she like completely does not fit in.
Yeah.
And it is so good. And there's like love
Wow.
interests and they're like unlikely friends.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Okay.
so good.
What was it called again? The Ninth
Ninth
House
House
by
Yeah. Lee Bardugo.
Okay. Wow. I will
Yeah.
read it.
Yeah. So everyone, listen up. Read that
Yeah.
shit. It's so
Oh,
good.
how cool. Interesting. I just started a book that my mom recommended.
Okay, we're back. Sorry. So Portrait of a Marriage. I'm listening.
Or The Marriage Portrait is what
Oh,
it's
The Marriage
called.
Portrait.
Okay. But, and yeah, this, like I said, is not spooky at all, but it's just interesting that they at one point thought that a child's personality was based on what the mother was thinking about at conception. So, like, if your mind is wandering during sex, like, your child could end up being whatever else you're thinking about.
Like an artsy free spirit.
Yeah, like in this book, the child, the mom during conception is in the map room because this is like
Okay.
1500s or something, way long.
Oh, okay.
And looking at maps and thinking about worlds and what they can do, and
Oh.
and the girl comes out and she's just wild, like untamable.
Oh.
The whole beginning of the story.
Whoa.
So
That's
kind of interesting.
cool. I
Something
like
to
that. Is
think
it?
about if you're trying to get
Yeah.
pregnant.
I'm not.
Any
For you listeners
listeners?
out there, because we're definitely not,
No.
Amy and I. Um,
Yeah. No thanks.
no, thank you. That sounds great. Is it fiction?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Marriage Portrait and the Ninth
Yeah.
House. Okay. Read them or weep,
Yeah.
losers. Just kidding.
Let us
Spooky
know.
babies. Let us know what you think.
Mhm.
I have to pause for a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. My cat shat.
And it was terrible.
And it was so terrible. It was burning my sinuses. Anyway, it still smells. I should open I don't want to open my little curtain because then he's going to come in and be tempted to scratch again. But goddamn, I'm like locked in like a poo bubble.
The scratching wasn't that bad. He could come back in.
Good. Okay.
For your health and
scratching.
safety.
Yeah, literally. So I don't die of cat shit fumes.
Asphyxiation.
Yeah, truly. Okay, this took a gross turn. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, on to today's topics.
Yes.
So Ninth House, Marriage Portrait, read them. Okay, so today we are talking about basically like entry points to hell.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Gateways to hell.
Gateways to hell. And I think I'm up first.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one more thing. Sorry. Our next episode is a holiday episode, baby. And you know what that means. David.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
okay.
Just know that that's coming up.
Yes.
David. And I can't remember if we said that I was just going to do both. Like I was just going to do the last two parts in one. Was that what we decided?
I can't remember either. Maybe it depends on like how long they are.
Yeah.
That episode could end up being like 2 hours long.
Yeah, that's really true. Let me see.
We can assess.
Okay.
What's our holiday after that though? 420. Earth Day.
Earth Day. Earth Day's a holiday.
Yeah.
April. Wait. Is it April 20?
Or Easter would be first, wouldn't it? Not that Easter is very good to associate with our topics, but
right. Demonic.
I think Earth Day is late April. Easter is early April. Okay. Or April Fool's Day. Sorry.
Oh, that's even better. No, that's better. That's better. Let's do April Fools.
Okay, perfect.
I dig that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Gateways to Hell, my friends. Yep. So I have a couple to cover. And by the way, this was Amy's idea. She came across a really cool one, and then we sort of built the whole episode around this. So shout out.
Spooky.
Shout out to my girl.
Thank you
so much. Thank you. Okay, so this is Collinsville, Illinois. So today in St. Louis, apparently, is a thing for this like news. It's an NBC. What's it called? Subsidiary. Yeah, 5 on your side, but it's basically like I think just for that like part of the US, but it's NBC. So that's the source, and they have this like Today in St. Louis group that's basically one of those like morning panels, I think, but then they like go check out different places. Yeah. So this was an October 2022 like series that they did that they were calling Spooky Spots, capital S's. So
they decided to go to Collinsville. Obviously not St. Louis, but they were going through scary places in St. Louis and then expanded a little bit. So there is a local legend that just outside of the city of Collinsville, there are 7 gates that, according to the legend, form a bridge between this world and the underworld. So Sydney Stallworth, I guess, who is one of the today in St. Louis, I don't know why I can't remember title, in St. Louis guests or panelists, was basically like kind of like talking to people in the area, the St. Louis Paranormal Research Society, etc. So she found someone to explain the legend, who's like someone of repute. His name is Mark Farley, and he's the founder of the St. Louis Paranormal Research Society. And he starts by saying, I mean,
what a way to start.
I mean, not everything I've seen in the paranormal I can explain. He says, though, in particular, he's seen a lot of things that defy explanation at the, quote, 7 gates in Collinsville. He says there were like 3 or I love the way he speaks. And these are quotes, obviously. Yeah. There were like 3 or 4 shadow figures that were standing on top there. It was a full moon that night. You could see them. We were shining a flashlight and we could see them. Then we just left. Time to go.
Time to go.
So historically, the 7 gates are actually a system of railroad trestles outside of Collinsville, Illinois. According to the urban legend, if you drive through all 7 gates and approach the 7th gate at midnight, you're supposed to be transported into hell, or some demonic creature will come to greet you.
Which one do you choose?
Don't know. Both great options.
Yep.
So the team had to drive through gates 1 and 2 to actually meet Dr. Farley between gates 3 and 4, because that's what he says is like a hotbed for paranormal activity in his experience. So he says, this is where I saw the ball of light that kind of moved and followed down into the creek bed, came back up and went out of sight, Farley said. Another thing that was weird here years ago, we would always find animal carcasses, dogs, deer strewn through here. You would be here at night and you'd hear dogs barking, and it would always seem like the dogs were getting closer, like they were right on top of you, and they would never come. And that's the story. People talk about hellhounds. So the idea is like you truly are at the mouth of hell. And that whatever these creatures are, hellhounds among other things like demons maybe, escape out of the Hellmouth, like just at the entrance there, and kill these animals and freak people out. And it's like definitely known in Collinsville. So it's not like a couple of Paranormal Research Society oddballs just conjuring this shit up.
Yeah.
Pun intended. But yeah, people will come out at night, especially around Halloween time, to get a glimpse at something ghostly. Sydney Stallworth, again, the reporter, points out that people have been out here numbering the gates with spray paint. And Farley said, yeah, I mean, for years, people have been spray painting these gates. Some of them come down for the thrill seeking. Others come down for more nefarious means or cult reasons, because this place has a lot of energy. Some people have a lot of energy attached to it. So that said, whether you believe these paranormal legends or not, the gates are dangerous for a very real reason. A lot of kids, teenagers mainly, will be down there in the middle of the night, and people will fly down at night and kids will get hit. So it's like easy to get hit by a car in this area. Farley sent the team actually a photo that he claims captures the image of a spirit at the site of a deadly car crash years prior. He added, I have a picture of an apparition. You can see her in a hoodie standing right there, which is just so like eerie. So it's like on top of it being a Hellmouth, maybe because it's like a hotbed for paranormal activity, or maybe like completely unrelated because it's the site of a lot of like car accidents and deaths. There's also this like other side of the haunting.
Energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it turns out Collinsville has a couple of celestial corners on the outskirts of the city. About 10 minutes down the road and past gates 5 and 6, we come to Acid Bridge. At the bridge, Dr. Farley told our reporter, mind you, Dr. Farley, told our reporter, you just...
I didn't notice that before.
Nope, I didn't either. You just got that feeling here that you're never alone. Acid Bridge and the Seven Gates. Anytime you read about them, anytime you hear about them, two things always come up. One, the cult activity, and two, everybody seems to have their own experience with these two areas. So it's just like one of those kind of unsolved, inexplicable things that people in the area know about. It's not like super well known nationally, which I think is like interesting for these. But it's interesting. So that's the first one. That was kind of my like little quickie. The main event is actually going to bring us to Prague. So this is a very famous castle called it's either Huska or Hauska Castle. Actually, let me see. I feel like you'd think they'd have a little pronunciation key, but they don't. Anyway, it's fine. So it was I'm going to call it Hauska Castle. Hauska Castle was built in the second half of the 13th century, probably on the orders of ruler Ottokar II of Bohemia during his reign in 1253 to 1278. So we're talking like
ancient.
Old. Yeah. And I mean, you hear like somehow reading second half of the 13th century feels like, okay, yeah, a long time ago, but whatever. And then seeing that date, 1253, is like, what the what? Yeah. So anyway.
So long ago.
So long ago. So it was built most likely to serve as an administration center from which all of his royal estates could be managed. This isn't known for certain, so this is like the best guess. Later on, we know it passed to the hands of the aristocracy, frequently passing from the ownership of one to another. So it was kind of like bopped around quite a bit in the next couple of centuries. The castle was built in an area of forests, swamps, and mountains with no external fortifications, fake windows, no source of water except for a cistern to collect rainwater, no kitchen, was super far from any trade routes, and had no occupants at the time of its completion. So it's like everyone is like, what? And a lot of those details get weirder as we go on. So like keep in mind the external fortifications thing. This is weird. So we're fast forwarding like 300 years. So 1584 to 1590, it underwent Renaissance style modifications, losing none of its fortress features as it looks down from a steep rocky cliff. So it's like it's really kind of grand looking. We'll post it on our Instagram when this episode goes live, but it's like very like ominous and kind of like hulking. In the 18th century, it finally stopped serving as a noble residence and fell into a state of disrepair before being renovated in 1823. In 1897, it was purchased by Princess Hohenlohe. I'm probably butchering that, but I'm trying my best. And in 1924, the Times of the First Republic, bought by the president of Skoda, Josef Simonek. And then as of 2020, it was actually still owned by his descendants. So early 1900s to today, it stayed in the family. So it is, according to our episode theme, you could have guessed, thought to sit on top of the entrance, or we probably should just say an entrance to the underworld.
Apparently there are a lot of them.
Apparently. But we're actually going to kind of like skip around a little bit in the timeline because I want to go back and like preface with like some of the like the underworld gate, Hell Gate or whatever, like is not actually the only legend attached. So in the 17th century, at the time of the 30 Years' War, during a period when Castle Hauska stood empty, it was chosen by a Swedish rogue commander of brigands and mercenaries, Oronto. He was the commander. And it was chosen as his headquarters. So he was reputed to be reputed
I think
Reputed.
reputed. Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Reputed to be, I think so too. If we're wrong, fuck it. Reputed to be a black magician and an alchemist who performed unsavory experiments in the castle. So we've got very like Frankenstein energy. Not only this, but during the time of Oronto's occupation, his soldiers became a terror to the local village people until at last 2 hunters willing to risk the consequences snuck up to Hauska in the middle of the night and shot Oronto through a window, supposedly as he was working in his laboratory to discover the elixir of eternal life. So,
wow.
yikes.
Interesting.
Fast forward a little more. During World War II, the Wehrmacht, which is like the armed, like unified Nazi, it's the army basically, but it's like the army and the navy and I think like the, I guess, Air Force. They actually occupied the castle until 1945. The Nazis were said to have conducted experiments into the occult. According to one source, there were multiple myths about their supposed occult involvements there. And another source states locals believed that the Nazis had been using the, quote, powers of hell, end quote, for their experiments. As of early 2020, the castle was open to the public and had been ever since 1999. Tourists can visit the chapel with fading frescoes and murals, which we'll get to in a second, which are very important. So Hauska Castle, and most specifically the chapel, was actually constructed over a large hole in the ground that is said to be a gateway to hell, which is allegedly so deep that no one could see the bottom of it. According to the legend, local villagers claimed that demonic, half-human, half-animal creatures crawled out of the pit at night. To keep the creatures in, the pit was covered in stones, and a chapel, which remains today, was built upon it. This is where it gets weird. The chapel, well, not where it gets weird, where it gets weirder. The chapel was then dedicated to the Archangel Michael, the leader of God's armies in the fight against the hordes of hell. Makes sense. Faded frescoes on the chapel's walls, some of the oldest found in Europe, which date back to the early 1400s, depicts Michael in 2 scenes. So let me go back really quickly. The entire time that Hauska Castle has existed, the chapel hasn't existed. So it was built in the 1200s, and then the 1400s were when the chapel was erected to cover this hole. So there was a time where the hole was just there.
Open. Yeah.
So we'll get to some details about that in a second.
Okay.
So there are 2 scenes of Michael on these frescoes. In one, he is fighting a dragon, a symbol of evil. And in the other scene, he holds a sword in one hand and a set of scales in the other and is weighing souls at the Last Judgment. Totally normal, very biblical, makes a ton of sense for the time. Depicted also are scenes of the crucifixion and St. Christopher, also normal. But what is strange about the chapel frescoes is that on one of the walls can be seen a figure unlike any other found in other paintings of the time. Here we see a creature with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a horse, holding a bow in her right hand and with her left aiming an arrow at a human figure. So not only is it exceedingly unusual to find a representation of a centaur, a creature of pagan mythology, adorning the walls of a church, it's literally on the wall of the church. It's also the only known picture of a left-handed female archer, because if you're familiar with like Christian belief, left-handedness is thought to be associated with Satan. And researchers believe that this picture is linked to the stories of half-human animals, which were believed to emerge from the gateway of hell, buried beneath the chapel's floor. So the idea is that, like, in addition to representing Michael and the armies of God, they're also representing like the hell army, essentially, like Satan's army.
Yeah.
So
wow. Weird.
Wild. Yeah. Wild. So at one point in the ownership of Hauska Castle back in probably the 14th century, it's reported that a duke of the Duba clan, which historically that's not relevant to me, but if you know, you know, in order to discover the secret behind the mysteries of the supposed gateway to hell, he offered a condemned prisoner a full pardon for his crimes if he would complete one task. He had to consent to be lowered down into the seemingly bottomless pit on the end of a rope and report back on what he found there. To this, the man readily agreed, but once he had descended down into the opening for quite some distance, there came a long period of silence, and then the convict began screaming uncontrollably from deep within the ground. When the Duke's men pulled the convict back to the surface, they found that his hair had turned completely white, and he was stark raving mad. He then died soon after.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so some accounts claim that this experiment was repeated more than once with the same result each time, but this one incident is specifically on record, and there are some sources that actually cite who they believe that convict was. So then obviously the chapel was built over it. They were like, never mind.
Yeah.
But today the owners have, so basically, like, we don't know what is down there. We don't know how deep it goes because no one's ever been to the bottom. But in modern day, there are a lot of reasons not to allow excavation of the pit, like for the owners, obviously partially because like it's a historical landmark at this point dating back centuries. But in addition to that, there's a concern that there could be Nazi bombs that would become dislodged and detonate.
Oh.
So they're not certain, like, when the Nazis were occupying the castle, like what they did there and like what they left behind.
Yeah.
So according to the Prague tourism website, the castle is reputed to have various types of ghosts, a bullfrog human creature, a headless horse, and an old woman, as well as the remains of demonic beasts who escaped the pit.
Wow.
So
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. So here's what's weird. When the square stone structure was originally constructed in the 13th century, most of its defenses were not facing towards the outside, but were built facing inwards towards the inner courtyard of the structure. So it looked not as if the castle had been built to keep an enemy outside, but rather to keep something inside from getting out. There were no stairs. Yeah. There were no stairs leading from the upper floors of the castle down into the courtyard. This actually isn't evident today because after the 30 Years' War in the middle of the 1600s, the castle's tower, moat, other defenses were dismantled because Emperor Ferdinand III issued this decree to make castles accessible, less defensible, et cetera, et cetera. But there are all these like really weird design oddities that like don't make any sense for a castle at that time.
Yeah.
So the pit in the lower levels is said to be this gateway to hell. So like it's covered, but it sounds like you can kind of still access parts of it, like it's accessible to a degree. And again, the idea is that like this Gothic building's defensive walls were facing inward in order to keep demons trapped in the lower levels, which are also the thickest walls that are closest to this like gaping hole. And one of the things that visitors of the castle claim is that they can hear scratching coming from the pit, along with a bunch of inexplicable experiences. You know, cut to bullfrog human creature. What that would even look like, I don't know.
No, what a combo.
It's such a combo. So the legends surrounding the site date back even like before the castle as well. So there's archaeological evidence. This is really interesting. Archaeological evidence of Celtic inhabitation in this area dating back into antiquity, and Slavic tribes migrated here in the 6th century.
Wow.
6th century. Crazy. The first known structure existing on this site was a small wooden fort that stood there back in the 9th century, mentioned by Václav Hayek in his extensive Czech chronicle published in 1541. In the same chronicle, Hayek also recounts a legend, the story of a strange crack in the top of the limestone cliff, a hole in the ground, unimaginably deep and reputed to be the source of strange visitations. Like, this goes way the fuck back.
Yeah.
Like, it just blows my mind. Like, first of all, it's the 1500s, and they somehow had the like archaeological know-how to somehow find that Celtic and Slavic tribes lived there, built this like hut.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the whole thing is just like bonkers, but it's like
Yeah.
it's legit. Like it's actually legit. I've like cross-checked a few references, like sources, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, this is legit."
Wow.
So he recounts the crack, that it's like a lot of weird stuff seems to happen there. Local residents began calling it a hole to hell. So that's where the legend, that was like the inception. And the villagers avoided passing anywhere near it after dark. They believed that strange creatures, half animal, half human, issued forth from the portal to kill livestock and wreak other havoc in the night. They also believed that any person who passed near the site was himself in danger of being changed into one of the creatures of the pit. They attempted to fill the hole with stones, but with no success, as it swallowed everything they dropped down it with no visible effect. So it's just
Wow.
like pouring stones in there,
Yeah.
nothing.
Whoa.
Yeah. Modern day visitors to the castle claim to have unexplainable experiences of all sorts, followed by instances of extremely bad personal luck when they leave the premises. Some people say they feel an irresistible aversion to entering the building in the first place. One of them is Hannah McGee, owner-operator of McGee's Ghost Tours in Prague. So when she and the company co-founder Tyler McGee made their first visit to the castle last winter, accompanied by their doggos, Hannah says that she felt an extreme uneasiness when she came into the courtyard. Apparently, she wasn't the only one to experience the bad vibes, because soon the McGee's dog, Bobo,
Bobo,
began barking and becoming very excited with nothing visible to provoke him. Mr. McGee described the feeling of being followed or watched by something predatory during their entire tour of the premises. And later that day, upon returning to Prague, the McGees parked their car in the city center and left it there while they did their nightly ghost tour. When they returned little more than an hour later, the vehicle had vanished. The police found it within a couple of hours, already stripped of its valuables and completely trashed. Just like weird, like bad juju, just like emanating off this place.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Many other people who have spent the night in the castle have a lot of other stories to tell. And Hauska serves as a meeting place for experts on the occult, UFOs, paranormal phenomena of all kinds, and is the site of numerous conferences and events. I would love to go to an event there.
What kind of event would that be?
I don't know. But I think it's like people who are like experts of the occult and stuff. Some of them, one of the theories is that Hauska may be built according to the principles of sacred geometry and consequently may be a portal for teleportation or time travel. So these were, I thought one of these articles summed up really nicely, like all of the like, what the heck is going on here questions. Why have local people always avoided the castle and surrounding area, fearing that some evil lurks there? Why is it that so many dead birds are so often found in the castle's inner courtyard? Why was this castle built on a site that was historically covered with impenetrable woods, not even suitable for hunting, with no nearby borders or trade routes to defend? Why did the Swedish mercenary leader and black magician Oranto decide to make this castle his home and laboratory in 1639? And what was he doing there that terrified the local peasants so much that they assassinated him? Why was Hauska Castle occupied by the occult-influenced Nazi SS during the Second World War when its location was of absolutely no strategic value? So just a lot of like weird energy.
Yeah.
Weird energy.
Good questions.
Yeah.
With no answers.
No answers. But
Creepy.
It's creepy. And with that, it's your turn, girl.
Wow, that was a really good one. And like you said,
I
haven't heard of any of these before. Like
no, I hadn't either. Which is always kind of fun when it's new.
Yeah, a nice surprise.
I like that. A surprise.
Yes. So, okay, I have two today as well. And
Hell
the first one is a little shorter, and I found it, and it's related to the first one that Olivia did, because it's also a 7 gates of hell. So there are multiple 7 gates out there. and it's in Hellmouth Township, Pennsylvania. So the town, first of all, I wanted to put this in because almost every article I read had some little warning about like how the town and the people that live there have been really trying to discourage people who are looking for these gates to not visit.
Fair.
Because I guess they've gotten quite a few tourists coming solely for that reason and like trespassing and just doing things they shouldn't do. So I would
Yeah,
just
it's not
put
a good
that in
time.
there. Don't go looking.
Yeah. Don't go looking.
Yeah. But there are two stories for how these gates came into existence. The first one is really bleak, but it's been proven false, so no need to fear. But here's the story. So, during the 1800s, a large mental asylum was constructed along Toad Road, which
Toad
Toad Road.
Road.
Turns out that name is not accurate. It's actually Trout Run Road, but whoever told the story and called it Toad Road, it caught on. And there's
That's
actually
hilarious.
there's a movie called Toad Road, a horror movie from 2012, and they called it Toad Road. That's based on this story. So
I'm adding that to my list right the fuck now.
I don't know how good it is, but they did mention
probably
it. It's
terrible, but I
article.
don't care.
Check it out. Yeah, so let's see. They built the asylum far enough away from the town where everyone felt safe and hidden in the remote woods so as not to be an eyesore. The worst of the worst were brought and kept at this asylum. But towards the end of the 1800s,
It's not even me.
Yeah, I don't know. People beyond repair, perhaps, probably criminals. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but towards the end of the 1800s, disaster struck. A fire broke out in the asylum. No one knows how it started, but it spread quickly, igniting the upper floors and burning everything and everyone in its path. Because of the remoteness of the asylum, firefighters couldn't reach it in time to save the patients. Many patients on the third and fourth floors burned to death, but others escaped. Police and others created a perimeter around the fiery ashes of the asylum, intending to capture any escapees peacefully, but many resorted to violent methods. Stories tell of the patients attacking those looking for them, and in turn, the searchers became hunters, finding, beating, and killing the patients to prevent them from reaching the town.
God!
Yeah, it's dark. So eventually, with the number of patients on the loose, the police decided to close them in, building iron fences and gates as they searched. 7 gates were built surrounding the remains of the asylum. At every gate, or gates and fences, I should say, at every gate, with the distance closing in, the police found more of the escaped patients, capturing the peaceful but killing any that showed aggression. What the police and citizens didn't realize was that the construction of the iron gates prevented the souls of the dead from passing on to the other side, forcing them to be trapped for eternity in the remains of the asylum. And legend says the anger, hate, and violence in these souls caused a rift that allowed for hell to open.
Whoa.
So that has been proven false, like I said, because there are historical records indicating there was never an asylum there to begin with. So not even just not a fire, there was just never that
asylum
to start. So but then the second story was that there was a doctor who lived on the outskirts of this town, and his mental health was declining. They didn't say what exactly was happening, but as he grew more and more paranoid, he decided to build fences with iron gates surrounding his property, and he built 7 of them, according to the story. And people who subscribe to this origin story wonder if he was building these fences to keep people out or if he was trying to keep something in, just like the other story.
Same kind of vibe. All right.
Yeah, so who knows? But let's see. Now, it depends who you ask, but there could be one gate left that's just kind of standing there on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Not really clear why it's there, but it's surrounded now by other people's fences and their private property signage. So there's no way to look at
Yeah.
it closely anymore, but there is an iron gate. They say that
Mm.
the others you can only see at night because they're like something to do with the light. I don't know. But
Okay.
I think they have it pretty locked down now where people can't actually go in and
Can't get in
investigate
there.
anymore. So, yeah.
Interesting.
But that's the first one. And now for the big one that led us to
Big
this
boy.
topic. It is
Yes.
Stoll Cemetery in Stoll, Kansas.
Kansas.
And yes, I again have a warning on this one. Not a warning, but just like a hey, don't hey, don't go there.
Hey, don't do that.
Because this is a real cemetery. Like people have their
Yeah.
loved ones there, and they want to be able to visit in peace. And I guess,
Yeah.
well, I'll read about it as we go on. But
Yeah.
people, they've been overrun. Like this became a
Oh,
huge
God.
phenomenon. So there was a lot of vandalism and blah blah blah. So don't go there.
Do not go there.
Yes. So Stoll Cemetery obviously is on theme, supposed to be a gateway to hell. And what I'm about to read, it comes from a blog post that the blog is called Week in Weird, and it's written by Dana Matthews, who calls either himself or herself, I'm not sure, a longtime paranormal adventurer. So here we go. According to the legends, Lucifer once used the abandoned, now destroyed church at the center of the cemetery as his own personal doorway from the netherworld. According to the legend, hundreds of eyewitnesses have claimed that even though the church had been missing its roof since the 1920s, rain refused to land inside the building. Awestruck visitors would report that the
What?
tiny church would stay bone dry no matter what time of year or weather conditions. So,
That's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very weird. And yeah, they tore it down, like it said. And I think that was at least in part due to the like problems that they were having because of the notoriety of this cemetery.
Mm.
And that's another thing I saw is that people were actually really sad about that. It was kind of a tragedy because it was a historic building that should have been protected. But I guess maybe it's for the best if it really is a Hellmouth. But
portal to hell, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of
that
a loss.
detail.
Yeah. Just a little problem.
Just a little minor blip.
Yeah. So, okay, going on. It was in Stoll where Satan would rouse the spirits who had been buried inside the gates of the most evil cemetery in existence. But he's only able to pass through the gateway twice a year, at midnight on the spring equinox, and of course on Halloween.
Of course.
Of course. Also, the spring equinox is coming up, isn't it? Is that March
22nd?
22nd?
It's either the 21st or the 22nd. I'm not very sure.
Okay.
I think it changes.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's one of those, though.
Yeah. So, coming up, he'll be paying his visit soon.
Maybe we should do an episode on that.
Yeah, we could.
After St. Patrick's Day, if there's like I feel like there's probably some witchy, spooky shit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah, that's very true. Let's write it down.
I'll make note.
Okay. Okay, so I'm sure you're probably wondering why, of all places, the devil would choose a small, relatively unknown place like Stoll as his connection to the earthly realm. But the reason dates back to 1850. The most widely accepted theory behind the origins of Stoll's evil reputation is tied to both a large tree that once stood in the cemetery, and an old tombstone inscribed with the word Wittich. So not quite
Like
witch,
Quidditch?
but Wittich.
Wittich.
Wittich. Um, so yeah, keep that in mind for a second. But the
Okay.
tree, it said, was the hanging tree for condemned
Oh.
witches who
Oh.
were put to death by the torch wielding townspeople. And the grave, none other than the final resting place for the bones of Satan's child, who,
Bro, what?
yeah, the legend says was born deformed and covered in wolf hair. So,
Brutal.
yeah. So, a little side note, somebody on Reddit posted a picture of this tombstone, and it is a little odd because at the top it does say Wittich, pretty big letters. But then down below there's a name that is Anna A. Andrews. So, when I first read that, I was like, okay, this is reaching, like Wittich must just be her last
Yeah.
name. But then
Yeah.
her full name is on the bottom, Anna A. Andrews. So why does it say Wittich at the top? And is that
And
like
also,
a misspelling?
that sounds like a made up name.
Yeah.
Anna A. Andrews?
Yeah,
AAA?
that's true.
666.
Yeah. I wonder if that has any significance. But
I don't know.
yeah, it
Color
makes
me intrigued.
I know. Now that inscription is a little bit mysterious. Like,
Weird.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But also the tombstone looks really new. So I don't
Mhm.
know. Either way, it's still strange because it doesn't quite make sense. Um,
That is very
but
strange.
okay, out of the larger than life legends that surround Stoll, the most famous story associated with the cemetery reportedly happened in 1993 when Pope
Mhm.
John Paul II was flying to Colorado for a public appearance.
Oh,
According to the legend, the Pope declared that the ground in Stoll Cemetery was so unholy that he forced his plane to reroute the flight around the graveyard because even the air above it was tainted by evil.
I'm sorry. Which pope was this?
Pope John Paul II. Um,
He was like a normal pope too. He wasn't like a crazy guy.
right. Which,
He was like Francis. Like he was like the most like progressive pope.
yeah. So I should have fact checked that, but I saw that in several places. I mean, who could really
Well,
say that other than the Pope himself? Because it was a private
right.
plane. So
Right.
I don't know if it's true, but creepy.
That
Um,
is so creepy.
yeah, very odd. Um, okay, then by 1988, so we're going back in time a little bit,
Okay.
the frightening legends of the cemetery had grown to a fever pitch, and on October 31st, Halloween, nearly 500 people gathered at the graveyard gates to wait for the devil's appearance, causing so much damage that the local sheriff's department has posted deputies on the property every Halloween since. So 500 people came to try to see the devil. It's kind of excessive.
Yeah.
But now the new police presence actually had the opposite effect that was intended. Now Stull wasn't just legendary, it was part of an occult conspiracy. So
Uh,
thinking that people know the truth and they're trying to protect
yeah.
people from it, blah, blah, blah. To make matters worse, on Halloween of 1999, local reporters made a trip to Stull Cemetery to put the legend to rest once and for all. They were hoping to document Satan's failure to appear in the graveyard at midnight, but were mysteriously turned away by the property owners just half an hour shy. Since then, it's
Mhm.
been absolutely impossible to obtain permission to actually investigate the property, especially on two particular dates. You know the ones.
Yeah.
So then Dana, the author of this post, they were able to visit Stull Cemetery, even though it is so locked
Mhm.
down. And this is what they said about their experience. So, despite the fact that Stull doesn't quite live up to its internet reputation in real life, and the reason they say that is because it turns out Stull is like on a corner next to the highway with like it's just very not spooky ambiance, not that many trees. It's so didn't live up to the expectation.
Like used to be a gas station.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, definitely a gate to hell.
Hey, you never know. But
no, truly.
Let's see. So blah, they said within minutes of entering Stull Cemetery's gates, I noticed dozens of flames forming small rings in each corner of the graveyard. There were no burn piles, no visitors throwing cigarettes into the grass, and it was a cool day, a far cry from a fire hazard. Maybe the devil forgot to close the door on his way back to hell. So,
yikes.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe they said earlier in this paragraph, they said it was springtime, so maybe they went on the equinox.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But random fires, kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
But then the last thing I have is another very notorious visitor to Stull Cemetery, and it's none other than Ariana Grande.
Shut up.
And she's done a few interviews about this. I guess she's into this whole sort of thing. Because she made a point to visit this place. Like, she was doing a show in Kansas City and then drove.
She's like, take me to Stull.
Yeah, that was the whole purpose, was to see the creepiness surrounding this place. So,
oh my god, that's hilarious. Oh, I kind of like her more. Not that I dislike her, but
yeah, she's more complex now.
Yeah.
And she talked about this experience in an interview with Complex magazine.
Oh.
So here's what she said. I felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is a sign of a demon. And there was a fly in the car randomly, which is another sign of a demon. I was like, this is scary. Let's leave. I rolled down the window before we left and said, we apologize. We didn't mean to disrupt your peace. Then I took a picture, and there are 3 super distinct faces in the picture. They're faces of textbook demons, she says. And then the interviewer says, let's see the picture. And she says, oh, I deleted it. The next day, I tried to send the picture to my manager, and it said, this file can't be sent. It's 666 megabytes.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, that's what she said. I'm not kidding. I used to have.
Oh my god!
I know.
Yes,
it is in with the demons.
Our spooky queen.
I know. Maybe she'll come on the show.
Oh my god! Yeah. Wait.
No.
I love this for us.
I know. Okay, last little part. She said, I used to have a folder called Demons that had the picture with whatever else in there. But then weird things started happening to me, so I deleted it.
Oh, nope.
Yeah. And they ask, what weird things? She said, I was going to sleep about 2 weeks ago. I had just gotten off the phone, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I heard this really loud rumble right by my head. When I opened my eyes, it stopped immediately, but when I closed my eyes, it started again, along with whispers. Every time I closed my eyes, I started seeing these really disturbing images with like red shapes. Then I opened my eyes and got back on the phone and was like, I'm really scared and I don't want to go to bed tonight. And then I scooched over to the left side of my bed because that's where the best service is in my room. And there is this massive black matter. I don't know what it was. And yeah, it was like a cloud of something black right next to me. I started crying. I was on the phone like, what do I do? What do I do? And they said, tell it to F off. I thought, I'm not going to do that. It's going to upset it. So I'm just going to chill and not feed into it because all it wants is fear. Blah, blah, blah. The next night, my friend Tyler was staying with me, and she said she was trying to sleep and her body felt paralyzed, and she described the same exact thing I saw. So, Ariana was being haunted.
Ariana!
Yeah.
Oh my god, ditch that photo of the demon faces.
I know. So,
like, Do we believe Ariana Grande? I don't know, but I kind of want to believe Ariana Grande.
Yeah, I agree. Her delivery of that story, I can like hear her little kind of squeaky voice telling it, and I'm like,
totally.
Do I believe you?
But I feel like that makes it a little more reputable to me for some reason, because like, what reason does she have to lie? She's already famous.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. She's not gaining any notoriety from that.
No.
That's for sure.
If anything, people would be like, shut up.
Yeah, you're weird. Kind of like,
shut up.
Who's that? Kesha. Didn't she have like a ghost
show?
She had
a ghost show, and everyone was like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, Kesha. We should do, I just put in our note that we should do a spooky celebs episode.
I was thinking of that topic earlier, and like even celebrity ghosts that have been sighted or like spotted. Yeah. Very interesting.
I love it. This was a good one. I liked these.
Yeah, creepy.
I liked these.
Don't go looking for them. I guess you can if you want to, but
or do and message us about it.
I think the options, I can't remember if I said this, but if you reach hell through those gates, like you can't come back is what they say. So you wouldn't be able to send us a message if you try.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Unless you then become a demon and come haunt us, but don't do that.
Yeah, no, preferably not.
Don't do that, okay? Just don't.
No.
If you're thinking about it, just fucking don't.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Just don't. Simple.
Just don't. Well, that concludes our Hellmouth episode.
Pretty much.
Which reminds me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love that. Love that show. But yeah, so stay away from Hellmouths. And buckle up, babies, because next installment of David is coming at you. Fast and quick. Hard and fast. Whatever combination you'd like. Yep. You can follow us on FB and IG at Girls Gone Spooky. And email us your spooky stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com.
Place.
We will talk to you next week. And in the meantime, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.